enter to level bars and
Yes, bars on.
Good evening. Yes, I'm here. I'm just having an issue with my my video camera here.
That's okay, as long
I
as you can
apologize
hear
about
us
that.
and see us.
Perfect.
All right, so we'll go ahead and start with the moment of silence. I'll stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk DeMoe, we'll take roll call first, please.
Councilmember Williams, Reed, Jackson,
Here.
Lawler,
Here.
Lanu,
Here.
and Mayor Snyder.
Here. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Second.
Any additions, deletions? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Lanu,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. All right, so we are here to have a public hearing on our Cdbg grant for Dean and Hoaglin Drive. So I will go ahead and open this public hearing at 7:04 p.m.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you, Mayor, and thank you, council members for attending. We're looking to submit an application through MEDC's Water-Related Infrastructure Grant Program for the replacement of the water, sewer, and roadway along Dean and Hoaglin Drive. Our grant application, we're looking to request $2 million in CDBG funds with a required match, comes out to $402,250 that will come out of the city's city dollars. We'll be utilizing the city's water fund, street fund, sewer fund, and then the general fund. This will go to replacing, like I said, to fully reconstruct the roadways and improve the underground water distribution, wastewater collection, stormwater collection, utilities. The ADA ramps, make them all redo those, make them all ADA compliant, so we are just looking for approval it's required to have a public hearing before you submit any CDBG grant application, so that is what we're doing, and allow the public and city council to comment on the draft grant application. Happy to answer any questions. Starting moving to that, the deadline is this Friday, on May 13th at 5 p.m. It has to be submitted via email. With local units being notified by June 17th, and the project must be completed by December 31st of 2024.
So we're going to open up for public comment, if there's any. Yeah. So do we have anybody on, Jill?
We have 0 attendees.
All right. So do I go ahead and close the public hearing? So do we have the questions at the approval of the resolution?
So
Or
we're going to close the
council?
public hearing, and then
Yeah.
the council will be able to answer questions, and then we move forward to approving the resolution.
All right, public hearing closed at 7:06 p.m. And Councilwoman Miller.
Okay, thank you. Can you tell the public how much will be coming out of each fund to add up to the 400,250?
Yes, right now we won't really have that specific breakdown on which, how much will come out of each fund. As the engineers finalize the project, we'll have a better idea, because it's going to be split, like I said, between the water, sewer, and then the street fund. So once we get finalized engineering plans and the project really going, we'll have a better idea how much is coming out of each fund.
Okay, thanks so much.
Any other questions from council members?
I'll just add, this is a similar grant that we utilize the improvements along Irwin Avenue. So we're looking forward to submitting an application and hopefully we can obtain those funds to redo the, do the necessary improvements along Dean and Hoaglin Drive as well.
Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mayor Snyder. Forgive me if you've already said this or if it's in here, but can you just repeat or say when, if this is awarded, when this project will take place?
Yes, so the project has to be completed by December 31 of 2024. So with that, more than likely, the grant dollars will not be available until the beginning of 2024 to give everyone enough time to finalize all of the plans, put it out, put the work out for bid. We have to go through a competitive bid process, which is a requirement for Cdbg, and then we will, construction will more than likely take place 2024.
Thank you.
Any other council member questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Do you have an estimated timeline when approval would be, you would be giving notice of approval?
June 17th.
June 17th?
Yeah,
Of
so it
this
looks like
year?
yes, it looks like a quick turnaround because grant applications are due this Friday by 5 p.m. And then with expected notifications to all local municipalities by June 17th.
Got it.
And then it gives time to, like I said, finalize the actual project plan, conduct any environmental testing that is required, and then do a formal bid process.
Any other questions? Motion to approve the resolution to authorize the Cdbg water-related infrastructure grant application for Dean and Hoaglin Drive. So moved.
Support.
City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Lanu,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. So at this time, I will open up the public hearing for the Michigan Community Development Block Grant for 1917 East Michigan Ave. Open at 7:10 p.m.
Yes.
Amy,
Are
go
you-
ahead. Floor is
Are
yours.
you ready?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Is it up on your screen at the, in the council chambers? The presentation?
No.
All right.
Okay, now it is.
Okay, it is? Okay, great. So we'll go ahead and go to the first slide there. We often talk about the 425, and so I wanted to give you a little bit of background on the 425 and how we got to where we are today before I go on to why we applied for this grant. So under Public Act 425 of 1984, it authorizes municipalities to transfer land for certain reasons, usually development or related. So this agreement is between the city of Albion and Sheridan Township, and it dates back to 1991 when we executed it on 250 acres of land out on Michigan. So until just recently, or right now, I guess, actually, because I think that the last option expires in June, 210 acres are under a solar option. Upon talking to the representative that represents the trust on that land, it doesn't sound like the solar option is going to go anywhere. There's not a lot of hope there. So we'll have those 210 acres back to be able to pitch for larger development industrial projects. But going into this grant round, we were solely looking at Lot B, which is highlighted in red, which is 40 acres that is owned by the EDC through a land contract. So that's kind of, when we talk about the 425, it is 250 acres. But we're talking about the 40 acres being Lot B at this point.
Do you want to go on?
Can we see?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
We just asked Jill to move to the next slide,
Okay.
that we can see what you were talking about.
All right. So are you on the slide with the highlighted red B?
Yes.
Okay. That's the one I just finished. So that's the lot we're talking about. That's the area. So if you want to go on to the slide with challenges, that kind of brings us to where we're at today, or prior to the CDBG that allowed us to do this master site development plan. We know that that acreage has environmental contamination. We don't know to what extent. We know it'll require remediation. So anytime that there's brownfield conditions, we know that a project is already going to have question marks in it. But when we tried to market this site for anything that didn't need 40 acres, there was a big question mark. Well, I only need, 7 acres. What does that mean? What is it going to cost for the city to bring water and sewer out there? Because that's part of that 425 agreement, that the city provides that infrastructure. So there was a lot of unknowns. So it became very complicated for us to try to market this and have a real chance of somebody looking at it. In the almost 6 years that I've been with the Albion EDC, I've had 2 clients that actually got serious where we did a site visit to the 425 property. That's how much we really need to know more about it. We need to be able to market it as a true industrial park. If you've been out to the industrial park recently on Austin, it's filling up fast. So now that the time is of the essence for us to understand what we can do with this 40-acre plot and the 210 acres that will go with it. So that brings us to go to the next slide. What we did for this grant. This grant gave us a master site development plan for that 40 acres. As you can see, it outlines what the cost to bring the water and the sewer to that site will be. It also gave us how much it's going to cost for us to build out the infrastructure to make it a shovel-ready industrial park. It will result in 8 industrial lots ranging from 3 to 5 acres, very similar to the lots that we have in the industrial park currently. Sometimes you'll see a project that needs, several of these combined, and that's okay. It's designed that way so we can range it in size and still get some of these smaller industrial projects. So that site development plan you got there gives us not only the graphic that helps us market that information, but it gives us the information behind it, the cost, so we can continue our efforts into marketing it and to developing this park. So if we'll go to the next steps. Immediate next steps is we're going to update our property information packet, which is what you see pictured there, with this information, so that when somebody gets this information through a request for proposal, they're not seeing just 40 acres, they're seeing where their lot could be. That's an immediate and a quick one. The next 2 take a little bit more time, and they're going to take some coordination and some efforts on different fronts. We've already had some initial discussions with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation on doing another site readiness grant, so I call it 2.0. In order for us to do that, because this first one was classified under planning, when we take a step up and we do more planning, we got to make sure that they want to make sure that we've got a very organized plan to get where we're going, and we're not going to just develop something for the sake of developing it and it sits there. They've been stuck with that in other areas in the state. So they're going to require us to come up with a targeted list of industries that we will target for that industrial park. That is part of the tax increment financing authority financing plan rewrite that will be taking place later this year or early next year. So we will be identifying those targeted industries through that process. And then we're going to have to work to identify other funding streams. There are funding streams out there that will help cities have shovel-ready sites. Currently, it's a priority at the state level to have shovel-ready sites because we don't have a lot right now. So they're running programs like this through technical assistance, planning assistance, and helping us identify those streams. It could be through community development block grants, so CDBG. That's been known to happen in the past. So we would identify these funds or these funding streams so that when we do get a project that's interested, we've got more information. So we can't take the foot off the gas. We got to keep it going. We got to figure out how we're going to get to the point where it is shovel ready, 8 lots, and we're ready to park a new project there. So that's where we're at today. This is the closeout hearing. We've completed what was needed for this grant. We're in the process of the reimbursement, and that will close out the grant, but the work behind the scenes and getting ready for either a second grant or updating our marketing will continue. With that, that's the end of my presentation. I can take questions.
You have any questions for Amy about this?
I guess I just want to be able to see the
Go back to
slideshows. No, can we have them? Can it be sent to us or?
Oh, the
the
slideshow. Yeah.
Okay.
And then that's a big map of the final development of this grant project.
That's what it will look like,
Yes.
when it's shovel ready.
Mhm.
I had a couple questions. So I've just been curious where the 425 originated from, the name.
It's from the Public Act 425.
Yeah, okay.
So it's the known as, we call it the 425 land, is because of the agreement that allows it to happen.
And then I was curious within the notice for this public hearing, the closeout. So I know that this is not shovel ready, and so I'm just asking because I'm curious. It says that the project would lead to future job creation, of which 51% of the jobs created could benefit low to moderate income residents of the city of Albion. Can you speak to how something like that would happen? Making sure that the residents of Albion are prioritized in the jobs that are created?
Well, I don't know if prioritize is a good word. The federal funding requires that we meet a low mod requirement. And that shows that 51% have to be below a low mod. Manufacturing on a whole qualifies typically for that. So unless we get a really high-tech manufacturing, the majority of the entry-level jobs will qualify in the future to meet that requirement of the planning grant today. So it's just a requirement of getting that federal money, that the best efforts are made for 51% to be made available to low mod jobs. So if we knew that this was going to result in 40 acres of high tech, we wouldn't have been able to utilize that funding source.
Right, okay. So in the court, like once it's shovel ready, in the course of identifying projects that would work, manufacturing would be considered 51% of those projects? Is that how that looks then?
There wouldn't be a requirement that the planning grant that it was used today is that the end result should end up that way. But so say 10 years down the road, we've got shovel ready sites. 10 years is probably, I don't know whether realistic or way out there. But let's just say it's 10 years down the road and we get a company that comes in and doesn't meet that threshold. We can still do that project. We would not be able to use Cdbg for that project. So if we have not built out any of the roads and they need to come in and the city needs to supply the water and sewer out there, Cdbg is an option for the city to go after when we leverage jobs. But the jobs have to be, the jobs that we leverage have to be that 51% low mod. So at that time, when we're asking for more funding, it would be a requirement.
Okay, thank you.
Does that make sense?
I think so. I guess there's just no, because this was CDBG grant monies, but the project was more of a preliminary preparation versus actually becoming shovel ready. There's no way of making that type of guarantee because like you said, this may be several years before we're actually even looking at who's using the site.
Yeah, so CDBG has different ways to be eligible. The way we were eligible for the planning money was that the expectation would be in the future that 51%. There's other ways we could have qualified, but it didn't make sense for this project. So if it's a public benefit, sometimes that will qualify a project. An emergency need, I can't remember the wording that they use, but typically when we see an economic or community development projects, it's the low mod requirement.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Do we have anybody on, Jill, that would like to make public comment?
You have to just scroll, if you scroll over the small screen for Amy and then all the way to the right, no, back on the screen with Amy. Over and then over there at the far, right, yeah, it'll go back to large.
We still have done attendees.
Okay. Any other comments before we close it out?
I would just say, I know we've talked about the water asset management plan and the discussion of potential second water tower. This is the area where that second water tower will go. As Amy mentioned in her project, we're looking at $2.75 million to get the utility extension to this area. Part of that required, we have to be able to fund those capital improvement projects for our water and sewer fund. This is why we are starting to engage and discuss the raising of our water rates, because we have to have those rates have to be able to support the capital improvements, the day-to-day operations, as well as the maintenance of this. So that's another piece that we'll have to get over so that we can support the second industrial site development.
I just realized one more question. I think I know where this is on the big map of the city.
It's that blue
That
piece
part,
off
okay.
to the side.
Okay, perfect.
Out along Michigan Avenue.
Okay. I was gonna say, in terms of presenting and public awareness, I think it helps to kind of put like a circle around that in a larger context of the city so we can place it.
Any other comments? Okay, I'll go ahead and close this.
The key to that word was shared township. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's when we have the agreement.
No, Sam, she's gonna put that circle around, that's a, yeah. The key to knowing where the land is at was the word shared township.
Oh.
We know what you.
We'll go ahead and close this public hearing at 7:25 p.m. Anybody else for public comments? You have a city manager report?
We don't have a report, I just wanted to make just an announcement. I sent a flyer out, emailed the flyer out to all of city council. I met with Arturo Puckering with Neighborhoods in Battle Creek. And they have shared that they are providing vouchers for the Albion Marshall Connector. So they have a site here at the Cram Building. And so he will be coming before council to present on the services that are provided through their facility here in the Albion community. But if you could just help spread the word on, if you know anyone who utilizes the Albion Marshall Connector, that they can reach out to that organization to obtain a voucher to continue to utilize that service. And that information, that flyer has also been added to the city's website as well as their Facebook page.
Councilmember comments? Any additional comments for the good of the order? We only had Councilman Williams make outreach to let us know that he was not going to be with us this evening. Do I have a motion to excuse Councilman Williams for this evening?
So moved.
Support.
You quick, Domingo?
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Lanu,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Support.
City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Lanu,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.